Hello friends, thank you for joining me today for creating dramatic natural light in oil pastel. My name is Diane and I'm excited to get going with you, so let's get to it. So before we get started with our drawing, I'm just going to walk you through the materials you will need for this class. You are going to need a set of oil pastels. I happen to have a largish set. If you have a largish set, that will work to your advantage. If you have a smaller set and you don't happen to have exactly the color I'm using, for example, like a greenish yellow, a little avocado color, this you could make with yellow, green, and a little bit of orange. And you just kind of rub them together and then rub some yellow over it to blend them. That's a little bit more in terms of steps you need to take, but it's totally possible if you would like to do that. So use whatever makes you happy. You'll also need a pencil, an eraser, a piece of paper to draw on, suitable for oil pastel, and your reference photo. So this is a painting by Edward Pothast. You'll see this written below, so you can pause the video, write down the information. The title of the painting is Golden Sunset in 19th century, done in the 19th century, oil on board. So you can download that, print it out, just internet search it, you'll find it in a bunch of different places, or you can just look at it on your phone if you prefer. Word of warning about working off your phone though is digital colors are not the same as physical colors, so it might be a little bit harder to color match, but you can absolutely do that if you prefer. So we're just going to start by drawing a little edge for the land here. You can just kind of copy approximately what you see. Don't worry about making it exact. This class is not about drawing accuracy. It's about color technique. So something like that. And I only did a small section here so I could kind of capture mainly the sky. I'm not too concerned about the land. And the first thing we're going to do after that is color white in the sky, because the sky is very light, so we want a base of white to put all our colors into. So before you get started, if you've used your pastels before, they will be dirty probably, so just rub it on the side of your paper to get them clean. And then color horizontally, because your sky has a horizontal orientation to it. And anytime you're applying color, whether it's paint or dry mediums, I advocate coloring in the direction of your subject, because it's just laying the groundwork for correct direction later. Like if I were to color up and down or diagonally, it's not going to show through your final, but it's going to inform the way you color your next colors, likely. It's just better to start from the get-go going in the direction you need to go. The other thing is I'm not pressing hard. I'm sorry, I should have said that at the very beginning, but I forgot. I'm human. So I'm pressing fairly lightly because I'm just putting down a base layer. I'm not concerned about it showing up white. It's white paper, so it's not going to show up anyway. But it gives the other pastels something to grab onto and something to not make them so intense, because all these colors are very, very intense. And now we're just going to kind of go from light to dark. So we'll start by putting in yellow. I'm going to put in the lightest yellow first and just kind of put a base coat in on the bottom of the sky. Again, coloring horizontally, not at all worried about if I happen to get some inside of the land, because black and blue and all that will easily overtake light yellow. So it's fine. But I'm just coloring lightly. I'm not trying to cover up all the white, just getting a presence of this light yellow across the bottom of the sky. And I forgot to clean my yellow pastel, and it was dirty. So you can see the little streaks I'm getting into this. No big deal. They either will show up or not in the finished picture, but you'll kind of see what that looks like, and hopefully you thought to do that. Clean your pastel when I didn't. I'm going to switch to blue now, even though it's not the next lightest color, because I want to start to create form around some clouds up here. So I'm going to put some shapes. I'm looking at that cloud, not at all accurate, but close enough. I am just eyeballing this, so you can too. Or if you feel like being that precise, you certainly can draw shapes for your clouds more accurately. So I'm just sort of coloring around cloud shapes, leaving white space where I want a cloud to be. something like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing in the yellow with more of a mustardy color. So I'm going to use this one, make sure it's clean, and kind of define some cloud shapes down here. A little bit there, a little bit on the edge here. Go back and color some area right around the outside edge of the clouds. And a little bit in here for where it's just a little dark, more on the right. I'm gonna move these, I don't need those anymore. And I'm gonna go in with a little orange. Oop, forgot to check if it's clean. It's clean. Put that in here. And we are gonna go back and soften and blend these colors. So if they're going on kind of gruffly, like the shapes are a little not very elegant, that's fine. It's more important to get the presence of the color in, and then we'll go back and soften and adjust colors later. I'm gonna put a little bit over here. And I feel like I've been a little neglectful of the top part. So I'm going to go back into there and get a little bit of a darker blue, bluish green actually, into the top. Since the yellow goes into the blue right here, it does kind of make the sky very turquoise in that area. So I'm just putting a presence of this, but not trying to cover up all the light blue. And then a darker blue. As we go up into the sky, it gets darker and less turquoise, a little bit more aquamarine, purpley, not aquamarine, ultramarine, purpley blue. Something like that. And then on the sides, we have purple. The only purple I have is really bright. So I'm going to use it, but I'm going to dull it down with a dull blue after this. So I'm putting some purple in on the edge. And you can see this is already, just this combination of colors is looking very dramatic and lovely as that sun sets, or maybe it's rising. Oh no, it's called Golden Sunset as it sets over this ridge. So something like that. And then, yeah, this blue should work to kind of dull down this purple a bit and make it not as intense. And that's partially because this blue has a hint of green to it, and green is made of blue and yellow. Yellow is the opposite of purple. So when you add two opposites together, they will neutralize one another, make them grayer. What else do we need? So let's do a little bit in the land, and don't worry, the sky is going to come together. But for right now, let's just put, I'm not worried about the black. The one thing I don't want to do is get dark colors right up next to the sky right now, because when you blend the sky, it's going to blend the dark colors into it, and we don't want that. So all I'm doing is putting some of these more disparate colors, like this avocado color, which appears lightly in the base, and a little bit of the purpley blue into the rocks, just as placeholders. But I'm not going anywhere near the edge for the reason I just said. We don't want to get any dark right up next to the pencil line, because you're going to blend the sky, and if there's any dark, it's just going to smear it right into the sky. So that's good enough for first pass. Now we can take the white and go back and blend, and this is one of my favorite parts. So just make sure it's very clean. Start in the lighter parts, in the white, actual white clouds, and just color those in as much as you can. And the colors you've already put in, like the yellows here and the blues here, should inform those whites. And just smear into them a little bit and make them not exactly white. a little bit bluish up here, a little bit yellowish down there. And then from there, I'm going to clean that again. Um, Smear the color around the oranges by just coloring right next to them. And I feel like that's actually a little too white, so I'm going to switch to the light yellow for this area and use the yellow as the blender. Yeah, that's better. That'll keep the warmth of that sunset alive. So I'm pressing hard because you need to in oil pastel in order to soften things and blend them. And I'm still going very horizontally because the sky is going horizontally. And all I'm doing is going around all the yellows and golds and oranges and blending them around this cloud and up into the blue a little bit, but not a huge amount. So I'm still pressing hard to blend, but then I'm going to go up a little higher and press lightly just to get a presence of that yellow into the blue a little bit further, because it really does glow all the way to the top of the sky. And further, remember how I said yellow was the opposite of purple? So I'm going to use a little bit of yellow into these purples to dull them down even further. And that's working really nicely. I always like to try to use the complement of a color, yellow being the opposite of purple in this case, rather than gray when I'm trying to gray something down, or black, because I personally feel that gray and black should be reserved for absolutely necessary cases because they tend to deaden things, make them look a little bit less lively. So when possible, use a color's opposite to neutralize it. So I do feel like the mustard colors in the sky got a little bit too light. So I'm going to go in with a darker brown and put in some more color, pressing pretty hard because now there's a lot of oil pastel built up. So I kind of have to press hard to fight that and get this to show up more. But that's working really nicely. Now I'm pressing lightly because I've gotten all the color I want in there and I just want to soften a little bit. So I'm just sort of barely touching the paper, just sort of rubbing over it. And then I'll go back with the yellow again and blend those, or blend the edges. I'm not going to color over them because I like the color. I don't want them to get lighter. So I'm just going around any sharp edges that I don't want and softening. Okay, now I feel pretty happy with the sky. If you're happy with your sky, great. If you're not, keep working it until you are. But once you're happy with it, then you can go into your land and put in the darker color. So actually, I feel like I went a little too light with the darker blue. So I'm going to use this much bigger. I'm going to put in big patches of dark blue because I really want that to show through in multiple places. And this is one area where I am going to use black because there's really no way to get it that dark without using black. So I'm going to use the black and really kind of define the edge of the hill, cliff, whatever this is, against the sky, sort of dabbing a little bit as I go so I can lift the pastel every second or so and just see what I'm doing. They're so thick that it's hard to see what's happening underneath it. So I've got a good outline, and now I'm going to color into the cliff, definitely filling in all the whites. So going around these greens and blues. And then I can go back and add more where I want to. So you can probably see also that before I put the cliff in, that didn't really read as a sky, but now that the cliff's there, it looks more sky-like. That's because you have something to compare it to, something to contrast, something to put in front. It's just really lovely that way, how pictures build themselves that way. Or in this case, I guess we're building it. So I've got a lot of black in there, but I'm going to go a little further. I'm going to put some lines of black into the green to get them to have a relationship. And same thing with the blue. I'm just going to sort of dab a little black into the blue And then I'm going to go back with the green and the blue and blend. And if I need more black, I can add it. But this way, this sort of dulls down the green quite a bit because it was very bright. So I'm purposely smearing the black into the green with the green. And I'm going to do the same thing with the blue, coloring in circles because I don't have any sort of directional roadmap here. It's just a silhouette. And it's creating kind of a cool texture. I like that. So mine is not as dark as this. I really like it, but I think I am going to add a little bit more black. So now I'm pressing hard, really hard, because I'm trying to get it to cover a already thick layer of oil pastel. If you cannot get yours to cover up as well as you want, you can use your fingernail and scrape off the residue and then color. Or you can use a penny or a knife or a plastic knife or a spoon, something with a sharp edge, and scrape off the residue. And then when you put your color in, it'll stick better, no matter what color it is. So friends, that is our tutorial on creating dramatic natural light in oil pastel. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining me for this. If you did enjoy it, please subscribe to the channel because there's a lot more on there and a lot more to come. And please take a second to rate and review the class to help others find it. Thank you so much for your time and your talent and your attention and your beauty. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.